Park stepped off the transport ship and looked at the alien sky above him. It was purple here, always purple, with 3 small moons that hung low on the horizon. Prime was beautiful in a way that made him feel even more tired than usual. He was 34 years old, but he felt much older. His body carried scars from battles he tried not to remember. His mind carried worse things. He had come to the edges of known space because he wanted to disappear. He wanted to be forgotten. Maybe, if he was being honest with himself, he wanted to die somewhere nobody would notice. But dying cost money and living cost more. His ship had broken down 3 days ago, and the repairs would take every credit he had plus some he did not have. So here he was, standing in front of the summer palace of the Empire, applying for a job as a guard. There were tall beings with silver skin and eyes that shifted colors like oil on water. They were elegant, ancient, and powerful. They also thought humans were primitive creatures barely worth noticing, had seen the way they looked at him during his interview, like he was a clever animal that had learned to speak. He got the job anyway, not because they respected him, but because no guard wanted to patrol the outer gardens. It was boring work, walking through ornamental forests and watching for trespassers who never came. It was work meant for someone disposable. Was fine with that. He did not want to be noticed. The first week passed slowly. He walked his assigned paths through the eastern forest, past ancient trees that glowed faintly in the darkness and flowers that sang soft melodies when the wind touched them. The beauty meant nothing to him. He had stopped feeling wonder years ago, somewhere between his 3rd battle and his 100th funeral. He saw the royal family only from a distance. The queen was named, and she moved through the palace like a silver ghost, always surrounded by advisors and guards. Her husband had been killed by assassins 3 years ago. Everyone said she had changed after that, becoming harder and colder. Understood that kind of change. The princess was different. Her name was, and she was 8 years old. Saw her sometimes, running through the gardens with her attendants chasing behind her. She laughed a lot. She was curious about everything. She had not yet learned that the universe was a cruel and dangerous place. On his 4th night, noticed something wrong. It was small at first, a shadow that moved against the wind, a branch that bent when nothing touched it. His marine training screamed at him that someone was watching the palace, studying it, learning its patterns. He had survived a dozen wars by trusting his instincts. He was not about to stop now. He reported his concerns to the guard captain, a tall named who looked at like he was an insect trying to explain mathematics. "You saw shadows," said flatly. "Moving shadows in a forest at night. How remarkable." "There was a pattern," insisted. "Someone is conducting surveillance on the eastern approach. The same positions, the same timing. They are planning something." His eyes shifted to a cold blue color. "Human, you were hired to walk and watch, not to think. Leave the thinking to those equipped for it." Clenched his jaw, but said nothing more. He had learned long ago that arguing with people who would not listen was a waste of breath. But he did not stop watching. On the 5th night he saw the shadows again. On the 6th night they were closer. Whoever was out there was getting bolder, testing the defenses, finding the gaps. Started carrying extra ammunition. On the 7th night everything changed. He was walking his usual path when he saw movement near the palace. His eyes were good in the dark, better than most humans, trained by years of night operations. He saw a small figure in a white dress climbing out of a window on the lower level. "Princess." She dropped to the ground and looked around with the excited nervousness of a child doing something forbidden. Then she ran into the eastern forest, her white dress flashing between the glowing trees like a small ghost. His blood went cold. She was running directly toward the area where he had seen the Watchers, the area that had dismissed as paranoid human nonsense. He did not hesitate. He broke from his patrol route and ran after her, his boots silent on the soft ground. Protocol said he should alert the palace guards. Protocol said he should stay at his post, but Protocol had not seen what he had seen. Protocol would get that little girl killed. He moved through the forest like a predator, faster than he had moved in years. Ahead of him, the princess laughed as she chased glowing insects through the trees, unaware that she was being watched by more than just a tired human soldier. Checked his weapon as he ran. His instincts were screaming now, louder than they had screamed in years. Something was very wrong, something was about to happen, and he was the only one who knew it. He pushed himself harder, ignoring the pain in his old wounds, ignoring the voice in his head that asked why he cared so much about an alien child he had never even spoken to. He did not have an answer for that. He just knew that he would not let another child die, not while he was still breathing. The forest opened into a moonlit clearing ahead. The princess stood in the center, her hands reaching up toward the luminescent insects that swirled around her like living stars. She was beautiful and innocent, and completely unaware of the three figures materializing from the shadows behind her. Drew his weapon and ran. The princess turned when she heard footsteps. Her colorful eyes went wide with surprise. She had never seen a human this close before. He was shorter than, with strange tan skin and dark eyes that held no light in them. "Who are you?" she asked, more curious than afraid. Did not answer. He was not looking at her. He was looking at the darkness behind her, at the three shapes that were becoming solid as their cloaking fields powered down. They wore black armor. They carried weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but recognized the way they moved. Killers, professional ones. "Get behind me," he said. His voice was calm. He had spoken those words many times before in many different places. Princess did not understand. Why are you?" The first assassin raised his weapon and fired. Moved faster than thinking. He threw himself at the princess, wrapping his body around hers as he twisted in midair. The energy bolt hit his shoulder and burned straight through. He felt the heat, the pain, the smell of his own flesh cooking, but he did not let go. They hit the ground together on top, shielding her small body with his larger one. The princess screamed. The second bolt struck his back, carving a line of fire across his spine. His legs went numb for a moment, then returned with agony worse than before. The third bolt grazed his skull, and the world turned white. But Park did not fall. He did not stop. He had promised himself that he would not let another child die, and he intended to keep that promise even if it killed him. With shaking hands, he dragged the princess across the ground toward a stone monument at the edge of the clearing. She was crying now, her small hands pressing against his chest where blood was soaking through his uniform. "You are hurt," she sobbed. "You are hurt so badly." "I know," said through gritted teeth. "Stay down." He propped himself against the stone and drew his sidearm. His shoulder screamed when he raised it, but he ignored the pain. He had felt worse. He had survived worse. He would survive this too, or he would die making sure those killers never touched this child. The assassins were approaching slowly now, surprised that their target was still moving. One of them spoke in a language did not understand. The translator in his ear caught the words, "The human is still alive. Impressive. Finish him and take the girl." Aimed and fired. The first assassin dropped with a hole in his chest. The other two scattered, seeking cover, clearly not expecting resistance from a man who should have been dead. Tracked the second one and fired again. His aim was not as good as it used to be. His hands were shaking. His vision was blurring. But he had been a Marine for 15 years. He had made harder shots than this while bleeding worse than this. The second assassin fell. The third one ran. Tried to track him, tried to aim, but his arm would not obey him anymore. The weapon fell from his fingers. His body was shutting down, finally reaching the limits of what determination alone could sustain. But it did not matter, the princess was safe. The threat was over. He slumped against the stone monument, his breathing shallow and wet. He could taste blood in his mouth. That was bad. That meant something inside him was broken. He had felt this before, on a battlefield far from here, surrounded by the bodies of his friends. That time he had wished for death. This time, strangely, he wanted to live. Princess crawled to him and pressed her hands against his wounds, trying to stop the bleeding even though she had no idea what she was doing. Tears streamed down her silver face. "Do not die," she begged. "Please do not die. Someone help, please, someone help him." Her screams echoed through the forest. Minutes later, palace guards crashed through the trees with weapons drawn. They found the two dead assassins. They found the blood trail of the one that escaped. And they found the human guard slumped against a monument, still conscious, still holding the princess behind him, still pointing his fallen weapon toward the tree line. "Secure the princess," one of the guards ordered. "No," screamed. She clung to his bloody uniform with all her strength. "He saved me. He protected me. You have to help him. You have to." The guards looked at each other uncertainly. Their orders were to protect the royal family, not injured humans. But before they could decide what to do, a new figure entered the clearing. Queen moved like light through water, her silver robes flowing behind her. Her eyes, shifting from blue to purple to gold, swept across the scene. The dead assassins. The blood. Her daughter, unharmed but crying, clutching a broken human who had done what her entire guard force had failed to do. She knelt beside. He looked up at her with fatting eyes. He wanted to say something, to report what had happened, to explain that there might be more threats, but his mouth would not form words anymore. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was the queen's face. There was something in her expression that he could not identify, something that looked almost like wonder. Then there was nothing but black. Woke to the sound of quiet breathing. He opened his eyes slowly, expecting to see the gray ceiling of a cheap medical station or maybe the cold light of the afterlife. Instead, he saw white walls covered with golden patterns, advanced medical equipment humming softly, and a window that showed a garden filled with flowers that sang. He was in the Royal Medical Wing, the most advanced healing facility in the Empire, a place where humans were never allowed to enter. He tried to sit up, but his body refused. Everything hurt. His shoulder throbbed where the first bolt had hit him. His back burned where the second bolt had carved its path. His head ached where the third bolt had grazed his skull. But he was alive. Somehow, impossibly, he was alive. "You are awake." The voice was small and filled with relief. Turned his head and saw Princess sitting in a chair beside his bed. She looked tired, with dark circles under her colorful eyes, but she was smiling the biggest smile he had ever seen. "You have been sleeping for 6 days," she said. "The doctors said you should have died. They said no one could survive those wounds, but I told them you would not die. I told them my human was strong." My human. The word struck something deep inside's chest. No one had claimed him as theirs in a very long time. "You should not be here, Princess," he said. His voice was rough from disuse. "This is not a place for children." "I have been here every night," she said proudly. "Mother said I could not stay, but I came anyway. I wanted to be here when you woke up. I wanted to say thank you." She leaned forward, her small hands gripping the edge of his bed. "Why did you do it? Why did you save me? You did not even know me." Thought about the question. He thought about all the people he had failed to save over the years, the soldiers under his command who trusted him and died, the villagers he arrived too late to help, the weight of all those deaths that he carried every day like stones in his chest. "Because you needed saving," he said finally, "and I was there." It was a simple answer, but it was the truth. The door opened and Queen entered. She was as elegant as before, her silver skin glowing faintly in the light, but there was something different about her face. The cold mask she wore in public was gone. In its place was something warmer, something human, if that word could be applied to an alien queen. She said gently, "I told you to return to your rooms." "I wanted to be here when he woke up," the princess said stubbornly. "And he is awake now, so I was right to stay." The queen's lips curved slightly. It was not quite a smile, but it was close. "Wait outside, little one. I need to speak with our guest alone." Looked like she wanted to argue, but something in her mother's voice stopped her. She gave one last look, a look filled with gratitude and something that might have been love, and then left the room. The queen moved to stand beside his bed. She looked down at him with those shifting, unreadable eyes. "The doctors say your survival is impossible," she said. "The wounds you received would have killed any instantly. They would have killed most species in the galaxy. Yet here you are, breathing, healing, living. They are calling it a miracle." "I have survived worse," said. "It was not boasting, it was simply true." "I know, I read your file." The queen's voice softened. "Park, former Marine of the Earth Republic, 15 years of service, 12 major engagements, decorated for valor 6 times, discharged after the incident." She paused. "The file does not say what happened but I can see it in your eyes. You carry ghosts with you, human." Said nothing, there was nothing to say. "You saved my daughter's life," the queen continued. "You threw yourself in front of weapons that should have killed you, and you did it for a child you had never met, from a species that treats your kind like animals. I want to know why." "I already told the princess. She needed saving, I was there." "That is not an answer." "It is the only one I have." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded, as if he had passed some kind of test. "I am offering you whatever you desire," she said. "Wealth, land, citizenship, a new ship, name your price, Park. The resources of an empire are at your disposal." Thought about it. He thought about the broken ship waiting for him at the port. He thought about the empty life waiting for him beyond this palace, the lonely jobs, the slow march toward a death that nobody would mourn. "I just want my original payment," he said. "Enough to fix my ship. Then I will leave." The queen stared at him. For the first time since he had met her, she looked genuinely surprised. "You would refuse the gratitude of an empire." "I did not save her for a reward. I saved her because it was right." Before the queen could respond, the door burst open. Princess ran back into the room, ignoring her mother's orders, and threw herself at its bedside. "You cannot leave," she cried. "You are my human, you saved me, you have to stay." Looked at the crying child. He looked at the queen, watching them both. He felt something crack inside his chest, something that had been frozen for years. "I am sorry, princess," he said quietly, "but I do not belong here." The queen's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You are wrong, Park." Her eyes shifted to a deep gold color. "You are not leaving. I am not asking. I am commanding. You will stay as my daughter's personal guardian. That is my final word." Opened his mouth to argue. But looking at the princess's hopeful face, he found that he could not. The news spread through the palace like fire. A human had been appointed as the personal guardian of Princess. A human would stand beside the royal family, eat at their table, walk in their private halls. It was unprecedented. It was scandalous. It was, according to many nobles, absolutely unacceptable. Heard the whispers everywhere he went. He saw the looks of disgust and disbelief on silver faces. The nobles did not bother to hide their contempt. To them, elevating a human to such a position was an insult to their entire civilization. He did not care what they thought. He had stopped caring about the opinions of others a long time ago. Guard captain was quietly removed from his position. The official reason was failure to maintain security standards. The real reason was that he had ignored warnings and nearly gotten the princess killed. Some said he was lucky to only lose his job. Others said the queen had wanted to take much more. Focused on his work. He spent the first month learning everything he could about palace security. He studied the guard rotations, the sensor networks, the blind spots, and the weaknesses. There were many weaknesses. They were advanced in technology, but they had become lazy in their thinking. They believed their power made them safe. They had forgotten that power attracted enemies. Did not forget, he never forgot. He redesigned the security protocols from the ground up. He added new patrol routes, installed additional sensors, and trained the guards in techniques they had never seen before. Some of them resisted at first, angry at being taught by a human, but they learned quickly that did not care about their pride. He cared about keeping the princess alive. Princess followed him everywhere. She was curious about everything human. She asked him about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests and cities that touched the sky. She asked about human food, human music, human games. She asked why humans were so short and why their skin came in different colors and why they needed to sleep so much. Answered her questions as best he could. He was not good with children. He had never had any of his own, but there was something about endless curiosity that made him want to try. She brought him drawings she had made, pictures of the two of them fighting monsters together, standing on alien planets, flying through space in a ship made of stars. In her drawings was always tall and strong and smiling. He looked nothing like the tired man he saw in the mirror. But he kept the drawings anyway. Months passed, the seasons changed, became a fixture in the palace as permanent as the stone walls and singing flowers. The nobles still whispered, but their whispers grew quieter. It was hard to argue with results. Since had taken over the princess's security, there had been no incidents, no threats, no near misses. The human was effective even if he was still a human. The princess flourished. She was braver now, more confident. She no longer flinched at sudden noises or cried when she had nightmares about the forest. She knew that her human was nearby, watching over her, keeping her safe. That knowledge gave her strength. She introduced to every dignitary who visited the palace. "This is Guardian," she would say proudly. "He is the bravest person in the entire galaxy. He saved my life with his own body. He is my human." The dignitaries never knew how to respond. Most of them smiled awkwardly and moved on, but noticed that some of them looked at him with something other than contempt, something that might have been respect. One night, the queen summoned him to her private chambers. This was unusual. In all his months at the palace, had spoken to the queen only a handful of times, always in formal settings with dozens of other people present. A private summons meant something important. He found her standing by a window, looking out at the 3 moons that hung in the purple sky. She did not turn when he entered. "Close the door," she said. Obeyed. "You have changed things," the queen said quietly. "My daughter laughs again. She sleeps without nightmares. She runs through the gardens without fear. I had forgotten what her happiness looked like." She finally turned to face him. "You gave that back to her. I do not know how to repay that." "You do not need to repay anything," said. "I am just doing my job." "No, you are doing far more than that." The queen moved closer, her shifting eyes studying his face. "I have watched you, Park. You give everything to your duty, but you ask nothing for yourself. You deflect praise. You refuse comfort. You live like a man who believes he does not deserve happiness." Said nothing. "What are you running from?" the queen asked softly. "What pain drove you to the edges of space, content to die in obscurity? What ghosts do you carry that make you believe you are not worthy of being cared for?" The question hit him harder than any energy bolt ever had. He stood there, silent, unable to answer, unable to explain the weight he carried. The queen waited. She was patient. She was used to waiting. Finally spoke. "If I tell you," he said slowly, "you will understand why I am not the man you think I am. You will understand why I do not deserve the honor you have given me." The queen's eyes shifted to a warm gold color. "Then tell me," she said, "and let me decide for myself." told her everything. He told her about Earth, about the colony wars that had torn humanity apart while the galaxy watched and did nothing. He told her about his unit, the men and women who had trusted him with their lives. He told her about the battles they had won and the friends they had lost, one by one, until he was the only one left standing. He told her about. It was a small colony on a distant world. Farmers mostly, families looking for a quiet life away from the wars. His unit had been sent to protect them from raiders who had been attacking settlements in the region. They arrived too late. The raiders had come and gone. The village was ashes. The bodies were small. Children, so many children, had walked through the ruins searching for survivors, but there were none. Only the dead, only the silence. I was their commander, said, his voice hollow. I was responsible for getting them there on time, but I made a mistake. I read the intelligence wrong. I took the long route when I should have taken the short one, and because of my mistake, those people died. Those children died. He stared at the floor, unable to meet the Queen's eyes. After that, I could not lead anymore. I could not look at soldiers and ask them to trust me, so I left. I drifted. I took jobs that nobody else wanted, jobs that put me in danger because I thought maybe one of them would finally kill me. I thought that would be fair, a life for a life, but I kept surviving. He laughed bitterly. No matter how hard I tried to die, I kept surviving. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was gentle in a way he had never heard before. You carry guilt for something that was not your fault. It was my fault. I was the commander. The responsibility was mine. You made a decision based on the information you had. The raiders made the choice to kill those people. They are responsible, not you. Shook his head. You do not understand. I understand more than you think. The Queen moved to stand beside him. My husband was killed by assassins 3 years ago. I was the one who lowered the security that night because I wanted us to have privacy. I was the one who told the guards to stay outside our chambers. When the killers came, there was no one there to stop them. She paused. I blamed myself for years. I still blame myself. But I have learned that carrying guilt does not bring back the dead. It only kills the living. And you, Park, have been dying slowly since. You have been punishing yourself for a crime you did not commit. Looked at her. For the first time, he saw past the Queen, past the silver skin and shifting eyes, and saw a person who understood his pain because she carried the same weight. We are alike, you and I, she said softly. Broken in ways our people cannot see, but perhaps broken things can hold each other together. Before he could respond, alarms began screaming throughout the palace. The attack came without warning. Syndicate forces, dozens of them, breached the outer walls with explosives and overwhelming firepower. They had come for revenge, for the failed assassination, for the nobles who had been arrested, for the power they had lost. They did not care about survival. They only cared about destruction. The palace guards fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. One by one, the defensive lines fell. Fires erupted in the gardens. The beautiful singing flowers burned. Fought through an army to reach the throne room. He was wounded within the first minute, a blade across his ribs. He was wounded again in the third minute, a blast that scorched his arm. By the time he reached the royal chambers, he was bleeding from half a dozen places, barely able to stand. But he kept moving. He had made a promise, he would not break it. He found the Queen and Princess cornered in the throne room, surrounded by fallen guards. A dozen syndicate soldiers stood between them and death. Did not hesitate. He crashed through the doors like a force of nature, his weapon firing, his body moving with a speed that should have been impossible for someone so injured. He killed 4 of them before they even knew he was there. He killed 3 more as they tried to aim at him. The remaining 5 focused all their fire on him. He took every shot. He kept moving. He kept fighting. Princess watched with wide eyes as her human stood between her and the killers, refusing to fall, refusing to stop, refusing to let them take one more step toward her. "My human will protect us," she whispered. And he did. When the reinforcements finally arrived, they found on his knees, surrounded by bodies, still holding his weapon, still breathing, still alive. The queen was untouched. The princess was safe. Against all odds, against all reason, the human had held the line. 3 days later, the queen made a proclamation before the assembled court. "Park has twice saved the life of Princess and once saved my own," she announced. "He has proven his loyalty beyond any doubt. Therefore, by my authority as Empress of the Empire, I hereby adopt him into the royal household as a member of this family. He will carry the title shield of the throne, a position created solely for him. He is no longer a servant. He is one of us." The court erupted in whispers. It was unprecedented. It was impossible, but the queen's word was law. Princess broke protocol entirely. She ran from her seat, threw herself at, and hugged him as tightly as her small arms could manage. "I have a brother now," she announced to everyone. "A human brother, and he is never allowed to leave, ever." Stood there, surrounded by alien nobles who still did not fully accept him, holding a child who loved him completely, looking at a queen who had seen his broken heart and chosen to heal it. He had come to the stars to die. He had found a family instead. Queen caught his eye across the room. She nodded once, the ghost of a smile on her silver lips. And for the first time in years, Park smiled back.